Everyone thought Willowbrook was perfect, a quiet town where nothing ever went wrong. But the day Clarabelle was crowned Beauty Queen, something changed. A shadow fell over that shiny crown, and whispers of secrets started stirring. Secrets no one was supposed to hear. The town of Willowbrook sits nestled between rolling hills, hidden away from the bustle of the outside world. It's a place of cozy coffee shops, neighbors who know each other's names, and old buildings that have stood through generations. Every lawn is perfectly trimmed, the houses freshly painted, and every face wears a polite smile. During the day, the streets are filled with the sounds of children playing, mothers chatting, and the quiet hum of a town that seems frozen in time. But as night falls, Willowbrook changes. Silence settles over the streets, leaving only the faint rustle of trees and distant echoes from the old bell tower. The annual beauty pageant is Willowbrook's biggest event, the one time everyone comes together, dressing up to celebrate the crowning of a girl who represents their town's heart and soul. For many, winning this pageant means more than a title. It means respect, popularity, and a lifelong status as a Willowbrook icon. This year, that honor went to Clarabelle. Clara is the town's newly crowned beauty queen. She's got the kind of beauty that turns heads, a soft, graceful charm that makes everyone admire her. But Clara isn't just about beauty. There's an elegance in her manner, a quiet mystery in her eyes that no one can quite place. People talk about her as though she's a dream come true, but sometimes, when she thinks no one's watching, a look of worry crosses her face, as if she's carrying a weight only she can feel. Detective Harold Finch has been in Willowbrook all his life, but he's always seen things differently. Where others see peace and charm, he sees the stories people try to hide, the shadows cast by the town's bright facade. Finch isn't a man who talks much. He observes, taking in every detail. He's heard things about Clara that he's kept to himself, things that make him wonder if there's more to this beauty queen than meets the eye. Evelyn has been Clara's best friend since childhood. They're close, sharing everything from secrets to late-night talks about dreams and fears. But ever since Clara won the pageant, Evelyn has noticed changes in her. There's a distance between them now, and Clara's silence has become heavier, almost as if she's hiding something from the one person who's always stood by her side. A man of charisma and ambition, Mayor Thompson takes pride in the pageant and the role it plays in bringing people together. To him, the event is more than a tradition. It's a way of preserving Willowbrook's image. He's thrilled about Clara's win, seeing her as a reflection of the town's beauty and pride. Yet, behind closed doors, the mayor is known to bend the rules, making sure the town's reputation stays untarnished. Some say he has secrets of his own. For generations, the Willowbrook Beauty Pageant has been the highlight of the year, a moment where the town's values of grace, loyalty, and respect are celebrated. Winning the crown is more than just wearing a title. It's an invitation into Willowbrook's inner circle, a place of admiration and privilege. Girls in town dream of that moment, practicing their speeches, perfecting their smiles, all for the chance to wear the crown. Clara wasn't the obvious choice for the crown. Until recently, she kept a low profile, quiet and reserved. But in the last few months, people started noticing her beauty, her kindness, and that unspoken elegance. When Clara entered the pageant, her win seemed inevitable. But there were whispers, rumors that some contestants had mysteriously dropped out, and that Clara had only barely made it into the competition. Something about Clara's sudden rise doesn't sit right with everyone. People wonder, how did this shy, unassuming girl capture the title so easily? And more importantly, what is she hiding behind that radiant smile? Clara's life in Willowbrook, once ordinary and unremarkable, changes dramatically after she's crowned the town's beauty queen. As she steps into her new role, she's swept up in a frenzy of events, fundraisers, and town gatherings. each designed to showcase her as the embodiment of Willowbrook's charm. Clara tries to smile, nod, and make small talk, but the weight of the town's expectations quickly becomes overwhelming. She feels as though every pair of eyes in Willowbrook is scrutinizing her, watching her every move. People expect perfection from her. A constant smile, a warm presence, a symbol of everything the town wants to be. But the image she portrays on the outside starts to feel like a mask, one that grows harder to wear with each passing day. As Clara attends event after event, subtle cracks begin to show. She arrives late to a few gatherings, and at one particularly important fundraiser, she stumbles through her speech, her voice shaking. Her gaze shifts nervously to the crowd, lingering on shadowy figures that seem just out of focus. Some townspeople exchange glances, quietly whispering to each other. They were charmed by her innocence and beauty when she won the title. But now, seeing her falter, some of them start to wonder if they were wrong about her. Is she hiding something? They ask each other. Mayor Thompson, a figure known for his sharpness and desire to maintain Willowbrook's squeaky clean image, makes no secret of his disappointment, often giving Clara pointed looks when she falters. Back home, Clara's unease deepens. It begins with small things. A faint creak on the staircase in the middle of the night, footsteps outside her window, shadows that move when no one should be there. She brushes them off at first, telling herself it's just her imagination, the stress of her new role weighing on her. But the incidents become more frequent. She starts keeping her curtains drawn, double-checking the locks on her doors. Despite her efforts to maintain control, her sleep becomes restless, plagued by strange dreams that linger even after she wakes. In one recurring nightmare, she stands alone on the beauty pageant stage, blinded by the spotlight, while a faceless crowd watches in silence. The longer she stands there, the heavier the silence becomes, until it feels like it's pressing down on her, squeezing the air from her lungs. She wakes up gasping, her heart pounding, unable to shake the sense of dread. Desperate for someone to confide in, Clara tries to reach out to her best friend, Evelyn. But every time she thinks about telling Evelyn what she's been experiencing, an irrational fear stops her. What if Evelyn doesn't believe her? What if she thinks Clara's losing her mind? And, even worse, what if opening up to Evelyn puts her in danger too? So, Clara keeps her fears to herself, offering only vague explanations when Evelyn asks why she's been so distant. Evelyn tries to be supportive, but she can't help but feel hurt and confused by Clara's sudden secrecy. She misses her friend, the girl who used to be so carefree and open, and she doesn't understand why Clara has started shutting her out. Determined to get to the bottom of things, Evelyn decides to take matters into her own hands. She starts watching Clara more closely, looking for any sign of what might be troubling her friend. Evelyn's worry intensifies when she notices how Clara flinches at unexpected noises, how her eyes dart around as if she's constantly expecting something to jump out at her. One night, Evelyn follows Clara as she sneaks out of her house and heads toward a quiet meeting with Mayor Thompson. Hidden behind a nearby tree, Evelyn listens as the mayor speaks to Clara in a low, insistent tone. "You're making people talk, Clara," he says. "We can't afford to have a beauty queen who's falling apart in public." He lowers his voice even further, leaning in close. "I know about your past. Don't forget. I could ruin everything for you." Evelyn's heart races as she processes the mayor's words. What could he possibly mean? She tries to catch Clara's eye as she leaves, but her friend walks past without even noticing her. Evelyn begins to wonder what her friend might be hiding, and a new resolve takes hold of her. She'll find out the truth, no matter what it takes. But as she digs deeper, she starts receiving strange messages herself. Notes left in her locker at school, her name scrawled in red ink on her desk, her phone ringing late at night with no one on the other end. It's as though someone is watching her too, warning her to back off. Meanwhile, Detective Finch, a quiet, observant figure in town, finds himself drawn into the unfolding mystery. He's watched Willowbrook's residents for years, seeing through their polite smiles and small-town manners to the secrets they hide beneath. He notices Clara's nervous behavior at public events, the way she avoids certain people, how her smile never quite reaches her eyes. Finch has seen this kind of behavior before in people who are hiding something, and his curiosity gets the best of him. He begins looking into Clara's past, digging through old records and making discreet inquiries. It doesn't take long before Finch realizes that someone doesn't want him snooping around. He starts receiving veiled threats, anonymous letters slipped under his door, calls that end as soon as he picks up, his car tires mysteriously slashed one evening. But rather than deterring him, these warnings only fuel Finch's determination. He becomes even more convinced that something is seriously wrong, something bigger than just a troubled beauty queen. Clara, he believes, is caught in the middle of a web that stretches far beyond her own secrets. Just as Clara thinks she can't handle the pressure any longer, a stranger named Alex appears in Willowbrook. He's new to town, a quiet young man with a shadowy presence who seems to know more about Clara than he lets on. He starts showing up at her events, always watching from the edges, his gaze unsettlingly focused. Clara tries to avoid him, her instincts telling her to keep her distance. But one evening, when she's walking home alone, Alex approaches her. "You can't keep running from the past, Clara," he says, his voice low. "It'll catch up to you sooner or later." "It always does." She stares at him, frozen, as he continues. "We're both tied to this. And if you don't face it, things will only get worse." Clara's hands shake as she listens to Alex's warning. She doesn't know who he is or what he wants, but his words hit too close to home. She feels like she's standing on the edge of a precipice, teetering between holding on to her fragile facade and letting it all come crashing down. Her paranoia grows. She feels like every person in Willowbrook is a potential threat, each gaze a judgment, every shadow hiding someone who knows the truth. She's caught between the need to protect her secrets and the creeping realization that doing so is becoming impossible. As days go by, Clara's once charming public image continues to unravel. People in Willowbrook start to talk about her with suspicion, gossip spreading from house to house. "Did you see the way she looked at the mayor last night?" they whisper. "Something's not right with that girl." Mayor Thompson himself takes notice, holding secret meetings with influential townspeople to discuss replacements for Clara. He frames it as a matter of the town's image, though deep down, he's starting to worry that Clara's instability could expose secrets of his own. If she were to slip and reveal what he knows, it could spell disaster for more than just her reputation. As the tension mounts, Clara feels increasingly trapped. Every attempt she makes to protect herself, every lie she tells to cover her tracks, seems to draw more attention. The more she struggles to keep her past hidden, the more the people of Willowbrook become determined to uncover it. She realizes that she's running out of options, and that sooner or later, she'll have to confront the truth she's been so desperately avoiding. The town's annual Autumn Harvest Festival draws near, a celebration filled with music, food, and tradition, where Clara, as beauty queen, will be the centerpiece of the event. The festival has long been a symbol of unity and pride in Willowbrook, a place where townsfolk come together to celebrate their roots. But this year, the town feels different. A sense of unease hangs in the air, whispered rumors circulating about Clara and the mayor, feeding a growing tension. Many are drawn to the festival not for the usual festivities, but out of a dark curiosity about what Clara might reveal under pressure. Even those who were once her supporters now eye her with suspicion, murmuring to each other as she walks by. As the festival begins, Clara moves through the crowd, smiling as she's expected to, her cheeks aching under the strain. but she can feel the weight of the eyes watching her, feel the whispers that trail after her like ghosts. Her heart pounds, and a cold sweat forms on her brow. She feels trapped, unable to escape the gaze of the town. Every step she takes feels like a step closer to disaster, her secrets pressing down on her like a heavy stone. She's exhausted, but she knows that tonight, she has to keep up appearances. Any slip-up, any hint of weakness, could spell the end. As she reaches the stage, she's greeted by Mayor Thompson, who smiles at her with a forced friendliness, his grip on her shoulder just a bit too tight. "Remember," he murmurs in her ear, his tone chilling, "you represent Willowbrook tonight. Don't embarrass us." She nods, her mouth dry, trying to hold herself together as the townspeople gather around. She's supposed to give a speech, a simple, cheerful address welcoming everyone to the festival. But as she stands before the microphone, her mind goes blank. All she can hear is the sound of her heartbeat pounding in her ears, the whispers of her past echoing in her mind. The crowd waits, an uncomfortable silence settling over them as Clara stands frozen on stage. She tries to open her mouth, to say the words she's memorized, but they won't come. The weight of the secrets she's been hiding presses down on her, suffocating her, until she can't bear it any longer. Her voice finally cracks through the silence, but instead of the rehearsed words, something else spills out, something raw and unplanned. I haven't been honest with you," she begins, her voice trembling. "There's so much you don't know about me. Things I wish I could change." The crowd murmurs, leaning in, their curiosity piqued. She can feel the mayor's glare burning into her, but for the first time, she doesn't care. She's tired of the lies, tired of the mask she's been forced to wear. She feels a strange sense of liberation as she continues. "My life hasn't been perfect, and I've made mistakes. Mistakes that some of you would never forgive." Her voice falters as she glances around, seeing faces shift from curiosity to judgment, shock, and even disgust. In the crowd, Evelyn watches, her heart pounding as she realizes just how close her friend is to unraveling everything. She wants to shout, to pull Clara off the stage, but she's frozen in place, torn between loyalty to her friend and fear of the consequences. Detective Finch watches too, his sharp eyes taking in every word, piecing together a puzzle that's finally starting to make sense. He senses that something monumental is about to happen and holds his breath, waiting for the truth to reveal itself. Just as Clara is about to reveal the darkest part of her past, a voice interrupts her, a loud, mocking laugh that cuts through the tension like a knife. It's Alex, the stranger who's been shadowing her for weeks. He steps forward from the edge of the crowd, his face twisted into a grin as he meets her gaze. "Oh, come on, Clara," he sneers. "Do you really think they'll forgive you? After everything you've done?" The crowd gasps, turning to look at him, their curiosity now mixed with confusion and fear. Clara feels her heart drop as she realizes that her secrets are no longer her own, that Alex knows the truth and is about to expose her in front of everyone. Alex strides up to the stage, his voice ringing out for all to hear. "Why don't you tell them about the accident, Clara? About what really happened that night?" The words hit her like a blow, and she stumbles back, the memories flooding back with brutal clarity. The accident, the one she's tried so hard to forget, to bury deep within her, hoping that no one would ever find out. But here it is, laid bare before the entire town, her darkest secret dragged into the light. The crowd erupts into chaos as Alex reveals the details, his voice cold and merciless. He tells them about a night long ago, when Clara was involved in a tragic accident that took the life of a young boy. He paints her as a monster, a heartless girl who fled the scene and left the boy to die. Clara's hands shake as she listens, her vision blurring as tears fill her eyes. She wants to scream, to tell them that it wasn't her fault, that she didn't mean for any of it to happen. But she knows that no one will believe her now. The crowd's judgment is swift and merciless, their faces twisted in anger and disgust. Mayor Thompson seizes the moment, stepping forward to capitalize on the chaos. He grabs the microphone, his voice booming over the crowd. "I'm sorry, everyone. I had no idea," he says, his tone filled with false sympathy. "This is a dark day for Willowbrook, but we must stand together and uphold our values." His words fuel the crowd's anger, and they begin to shout, calling for Clara to be held accountable, to pay for her sins. Evelyn, horrified by what she's witnessing, finally pushes through the crowd and reaches Clara's side. She takes her friend's hand, squeezing it tightly, her voice a whisper in Clara's ear. "Don't let them do this to you. You don't deserve this." But Clara can barely hear her, her mind a whirlwind of emotions, guilt, shame, and fear tearing her apart. She realizes that there's no escaping her past, that it's finally caught up to her, and there's nothing she can do to stop it. In a final act of desperation, Clara turns to face the crowd, her voice breaking as she tries to explain herself. "I'm sorry," she chokes out, her words barely audible over the noise. "I never meant for any of this to happen. I just wanted to be someone you could be proud of." But her apology falls on deaf ears, the crowd's anger overpowering any chance of redemption. Detective Finch, watching from the edge of the crowd, feels a pang of pity for Clara. He realizes that she's been trapped by more than just her own mistakes. She's been a pawn in a larger game, used by people who wanted to control her, to shape her into something she was never meant to be. He steps forward, his voice cutting through the noise as he addresses the crowd. "Enough," he says firmly. "This is not justice. This is a witch hunt." His words cause a brief pause, the crowd's fury momentarily tempered by his authority. But Mayor Thompson quickly steps in, dismissing Finch's words with a wave of his hand. "Detective, this is none of your concern. Clara has brought shame to our town, and we must act accordingly." The crowd, spurred on by the mayor's words, resumes its angry chant, demanding retribution. As the tension reaches its peak, Clara feels herself slipping, the weight of everything crashing down on her. She stumbles back, the ground seeming to shift beneath her feet. Her vision blurs, and she feels as though she's falling, the world spinning around her. She knows that this is the end, that there's no coming back from this. Just as she's about to collapse, Evelyn catches her, holding her tightly. "I'm here," Evelyn whispers, her voice filled with fierce determination. "We'll get through this. I won't let them destroy you." But even as she speaks, Clara knows that it's too late, that the damage has been done, and her life will never be the same. As the night continues, the initial shock from Clara's revelation and the crowd's reaction settles into an uneasy stillness. The once rowdy crowd starts to disperse, murmuring among themselves, torn between anger, disbelief, and a lingering sense of shame. Many avoid making eye contact with Clara, their initial anger cooling as they witness the shattered young woman on the stage. A few of Clara's former friends and supporters look back, haunted by the part they played in this public reckoning. The whispers die down, leaving a heavy silence, punctuated only by Clara's quiet sobs and Evelyn's attempts to comfort her. Detective Finch approaches the stage cautiously, his expression softened by a hint of empathy. "Clara," he says quietly, his voice gentle, "you're not alone in this." His words resonate with her, cutting through the fog of shame and guilt clouding her mind. For a brief moment, Clara feels a glimmer of hope, a faint reminder that she has people willing to stand by her side despite everything. Finch offers his hand to help her down from the stage, a small gesture of kindness in a night filled with cruelty. Evelyn wraps her arm around Clara's shoulders, guiding her away from the festival grounds, and toward a quieter spot by the town's lake. They walk in silence, the cool night air providing some relief from the intense emotions that have weighed on them all night. When they finally sit on a bench overlooking the still water, Evelyn speaks first, her voice choked with emotion. "I'm so sorry, Clara. I should have done more to protect you. I should have been there." Clara shakes her head, struggling to keep her voice steady. "No, Evelyn. You were the only one who ever believed in me, who didn't turn your back on me when things got hard. I made mistakes, and now everyone knows." The weight of her words settles heavily between them, both girls feeling the enormity of what has happened and the irreversible change in their lives. Meanwhile, back at the festival grounds, Mayor Thompson is surrounded by concerned townsfolk, each of them eager to voice their thoughts on the night's events. The mayor tries to shift the focus, redirecting blame and steering the conversation away from his own role in Clara's downfall. However, as the crowd disperses further, a few townsfolk linger, glancing back at him with skepticism. They've seen his manipulation, the way he orchestrated Clara's exposure to maintain control, and some begin to question his motives, sensing there's more to his involvement than he lets on. Detective Finch, observing this scene from a distance, senses an opportunity. He realizes that tonight's events might be the catalyst needed to challenge the mayor's authority in the town, to bring change and accountability where there's been corruption and manipulation. He makes a mental note to follow up on this, knowing that the truth about Clara's story might be only one part of a larger picture of deception and control within Willowbrook's leadership. Back by the lake, Clara finally begins to process her feelings, her voice soft and pained as she speaks to Evelyn. "I've spent so long trying to be someone I'm not," she admits, her voice barely above a whisper. "I thought that if I could just live up to their expectations, they'd finally accept me. But it was all a lie, and now, I don't even know who I am anymore." She looks out over the water, the reflection of the moon casting an eerie glow on the lake's surface. "Maybe it's better if I just leave Willowbrook," she says, the thought feeling both terrifying and freeing. Evelyn tightens her grip on Clara's hand. "No, Clara, you don't have to run away. You've faced so much already, and running won't change the past. But maybe it's time to stop living for everyone else and start living for yourself." Her words hang in the air, a simple but powerful truth that resonates with Clara in a way nothing else has. She realizes that, for the first time, she has a choice to reclaim her life, to forge her own path, free from the expectations and judgments of others. As dawn begins to break over Willowbrook, Clara and Evelyn sit together in silence, each lost in thought but comforted by each other's presence. Clara feels a sense of peace settling over her, a newfound clarity that gives her the strength to face whatever comes next. She knows that the road ahead will be challenging, that forgiveness may not come easily, but she's ready to begin the journey. In the morning, Clara walks back through the town, head held high despite the curious stares and murmurs that follow her. She knows she'll need to confront the pain of the past, the mistakes she's made, and the people she's hurt. But with Evelyn by her side and Detective Finch's quiet support, she feels ready to begin rebuilding her life, one step at a time. The sun rises fully over Willowbrook, casting a warm glow that feels almost symbolic. A new day for Clara and, in a way, a fresh start for the town itself. Clara stands in the quiet of her family's yard, the cool morning breeze brushing against her face. She feels an inner calm she hasn't known in a long time. The memories of the previous night still linger, but they seem less daunting in the light of day. As she looks over her surroundings, memories flood back. Days spent playing in this yard, laughing with friends who once felt like family, the small town that shaped her in ways she hadn't fully understood until now. Clara realizes that while Willowbrook has been a source of both joy and pain, it's also the place where she's discovered who she really is. Evelyn joins her, a soft smile on her face. Ready to face the world? She asks, her voice full of encouragement. Clara nods, giving Evelyn a grateful smile. More than I ever thought I'd be, she replies. Together, they walk through the town, receiving mixed reactions from those they pass. Some are sympathetic, others avoid her gaze, and a few even nod in silent respect. Clara understands that she can't control how others see her, but she can choose how to live from this moment forward. Detective Finch catches up with them, a supportive presence that reminds Clara of the good still left in the town. Clara, he says, I've been speaking with a few townsfolk. It seems that people are beginning to question the way things have been run here, the secrets that have stayed buried for too long. His words spark a sense of hope in Clara, an understanding that her story might have shed light on more than just her own struggles. She realizes that her choices, painful as they were, have brought a chance for change to Willowbrook. Later that day, Clara gathers her strength and addresses the townspeople in a simple, heartfelt manner. She doesn't make excuses or try to win anyone's sympathy. Instead, she speaks honestly about her mistakes and her journey, acknowledging the harm caused and expressing a desire to make amends. Her words, though met with mixed reactions, resonate with many who see her newfound courage as something worth admiring. Over time, Clara finds small ways to rebuild her life. She spends her days working quietly, reconnecting with her remaining friends, and finding meaning in the simple joys she'd overlooked before. Evelyn remains her steadfast companion, a reminder of the value of true friendship and loyalty. Through Evelyn's unwavering support, Clara learns the importance of surrounding herself with those who lift her up rather than tear her down. Months pass, and Clara becomes a fixture in the community, not as the beauty queen she once was, but as someone who embodies resilience and growth. People who once knew her solely as a small-town beauty now see her as a young woman who survived both public scrutiny and private heartbreak. The town itself seems to soften, less rigid in its judgments, as if Clara's journey has opened up a space for empathy. Reflecting on her journey, Clara understands that she's gained something far more valuable than a crown or a title. She's gained a sense of self-worth, an understanding that her value isn't defined by the approval or rejection of others. Her strength now comes from within, and with that strength, she finds the courage to set her own path, unafraid of others' opinions. As she sits by the lake one evening, watching the sunset, Clara feels at peace. She no longer carries the weight of the past with her, and she no longer fears what lies ahead. She turns to Evelyn, who has joined her, and says, I'm ready for whatever comes next. The story concludes on a thoughtful note, inviting the audience to reflect on Clara's journey as a reminder of resilience, redemption, and self-discovery. By facing her fears, overcoming adversity, and rebuilding her sense of self, Clara becomes an emblem of quiet strength and hope.